So let's talk about the grips of the A7C versus the ZV-E1. And for a little bit of surprise today, I want to bring in the A6700, which is kind of a newer camera that I have. I really hadn't played a lot with it, but anyway, I have it in, and I want to throw it in just for a little bit of comparison. If you see here, this is the ZV-E1, and what you have here, the grip is like straight, flat, up and down right here, which becomes, as I've kind of discovered, very important when it comes to the design of the grips and how comfortable they are when you go to use the actual camera. Also, this is about how much depth you have. So, not very much depth on this grip at all. Also, while we're taking a look at this grip, I want to point out the zoom rocker, which is right here. And this is what I have a really major problem with, because when I go to hold this camera, I'm always engaging the zoom rocker. And it sticks out just a little bit over the edge of the grip. So it's really, really easy to engage. And that's one of my main sticking points of this camera, as I keep hitting that zoom toggle over and over and over again. Unless I put that small rig cage on it, in that case it eliminates that problem altogether. But I really, if I'm taking this thing traveling, I want it to be as small and as light as possible, and I don't want to have to bring that cage with me. So this becomes an issue. So let's throw on the A7C2 and take a look at it. Okay, this is the A7C2. As you can see, the grip is quite substantially different than on the ZV-E1. So right here you have a little indention, so your finger can sit in there and it holds the camera better. And also this is just a little bit curved. It's just not straight up and down right here. So it's deeper down here on the bottom than it is up here on the top, and the overall grip is much deeper than the ZV-E1. And this for me is much more comfortable to hold and use, especially if I have a bigger lens like this 20-70 f4 lens on here. Much more comfortable on the A7C2 because the design of the grip. Now they're both about the same size from here to here, but the depth is much bigger, and that little trigger indentation right there makes a huge difference other than just the straight flat design of the ZV-E1. Now looking here on this, again, it doesn't have a zoom rocker like the ZV-E1. You have the on and off toggle here. It didn't come into play much. But then the A7C2 also has a front scroll wheel, and this is much, or exactly, I guess, like the A6700. But I find that when I have this camera in my hands, it's almost impossible to use this scroll wheel one-handed. While it's great that it's on there, it's really not the most practical thing in the world. And I pretty much use these cameras in automatic modes, like aperture priority mode anyway, and wind up using the aperture ring on my lenses. So I'm sure a lot of people are happy it's on there, but to me it doesn't make much difference. And it's also much comfortable and easier to use and hold when you're using lenses like this 20-70 f4 lens. Now, here's the crazy part. Let's throw on the A6700 and take a look at it. Okay, this is the A6700 grip, and it may look and is pretty much the exact same as the A7C2, except for it is much, much deeper right here at the deepest point of the grip. This grip is actually more comfortable than the A7C2. Even though you'd typically be using smaller, more lightweight lenses with the APS-C camera, it has a larger grip than the camera where you'd be potentially be using much larger and heavier lenses. This grip is more suited for larger lenses. Odd, okay? But again, it has the indentation right here, like a trigger finger. It has similar shaping right here, But again, it's just much deeper. I mean, noticeably deeper. And it has a scroll wheel right here, front scroll wheel, like the A7C2. It's really strange. It's really strange that this grip is more comfortable than the other three, even though you'd be using larger lenses with the other two. Strange. So the first thing I did when I got this camera in was I put the 20-70 f4 on it, on each one of these cameras, just a test, and I wanted to see how it felt in my hand. The A7C2, it does feel much better than the ZVE1 in your hand. Like, you can actually hold this and it feels fairly comfortable. But then I put it on the A6700 and it feels way better than this. Go figure. That must be a Sony thing. I don't know why they would do that. I don't know why they would make the grip on the A6700 bigger and more comfortable than the grip on their full frame A7C2, but that's what they did. It's kind of surprising. Also, let's take kind of a look at this camera overall. Like up here, you have the quick selection thing where you can go from photo mode to video mode to S&Q mode. However, in this camera, it's completely opposite in a complete different order than it is on all the previous cameras. So that might be an issue. I don't know why they did that, but that's what it is. So on the other cameras, it's photo, video, S&Q. On this one, it's S&Q, video, and photo. Another thing that they did right on this camera that they didn't get right on the other ones is these little dongle things are nice and tight so they don't flop around. You get over to the A6700 and these things constantly flop around and make a lot of racket when you're recording or using your camera. So at least they fixed that on the A7C2. These aren't going to flop around and makes a bunch of noise. Now, some people complain about the ZVE1, but I tend to like this just, metal stud better. You don't have to worry about anything making noise because there's nothing to flop around, and that to me is the better solution. Now, when you're going to select photo, video, and S&Q, on the top of the ZVE1, there's the little selection switch here, and it works out pretty good, but in my opinion, I like the mode dial just a lot better. To me, I guess it's just more comfortable for me. Not that one is better than the other. That just is just kind of what I'm used to, and it's more comfortable for me to use a mode dial. And then when I said that the A7C2 would be more set up towards hybrid use over the ZVE1, this is just one example. You see this AF on button here? I use this button a lot when I'm using my A7R5. Like, I use it, I will, select a person's eye and hold it down and then recompose my shot. And that's how I work with that camera a lot, to make sure I'm getting the right person's eye in focus. Or in video mode, I'll have it to tracking on. So I'll choose what I want to track, push the button, and then I'm able to move the camera around freely, and the autofocus will be tracking that person. And that's a nice pronounced button, easy to find and easy to use. So that's nice to have that button on there. And it's the same on A6700 here, a nice pronounced button. Now you get over to the ZVE1 and that button is missing. So I had to remap this button right here, the C2 button, to do what these buttons do here, but it's much smaller and much harder to find when you're actually using the camera. So in my opinion, these two cameras are set up way better for hybrid use than the ZVE1. So while we're looking around this camera, let's take a look at this little door right here. This is the microphone door, and the ZVE1, it flips out like this, which in my opinion, that's the best way to do it. And the A7C2, and the 6700 that flips up. But what happens is if you have a strap on there, this is always, you know, pushing down against this door and against the microphone input all the time. So I don't know, this seems totally backwards to me as opposed to this. But I don't know, just something that I've noticed while using the 6700 in limited use. So anyway, just a kind of a quick look at these cameras as far as the physical aspects of it go. Again, 6700 definitely has the better grip. The A7C2, it's right in between these two, and the ZVE1 has the worst grip of them all. That's kind of where we're starting out. Check back from my channel if you want to see more content comparing all these cameras. I guess I'll just go ahead and throw the A6700 in here for the heck of it on some of these videos, because it seems to be right in line with all these cameras right here. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one.